In Fallout 4, one of the most important features is the special system. It gives you access to several amazing perks to help you fare against harder enemies throughout the game. But what if you never leveled up? But what if you never had a skill? Well, in this video, we find out, can you beat Fallout 4 being underqualified?
To start off, I need to make my character. And I think a great way to visualize what I'm going to make is someone who lied on their job resume. And I think I did a great job. I watched some challenge runs and then started making my way to the door after hearing a knock. Here I was presented with many things to use on my run. But then I realized after 15 minutes of waiting here, there was no perks, there was no skills. So I decided just to name myself Guzzler Prime. I leisurely beat my son 5 times before staring down my wife. I hit a little jig on the elevator, got frozen, and watched my wife get shot once again. I made a great business move by taking my wife's ring, which I could later sell. Then I made my way out of the vault before realizing how caked up Guzzler Prime actually was. Once I saw the light, I could not stop giggling and kicking my feet up like a child after seeing the creation that I made in the sun. Here, he just looks beautiful. He's just a cool looking man. I ignored Codsworth because everybody knows he is the worst companion. I was stopped in my tracks admiring my new fit I found on the floor. I grabbed a door blocker because I felt a bit too joyous at the moment. I got a little too close to Wolfgang, seeing inside of his little head, so I did the only normal thing that you would normally do. I left Trudy and her son a new offering before heading out to Diamond City, where I was then crushed by a super mutant with a missile launcher. It was terrible, and I got very sad after this. Once at Diamond City, Piper tried to do that good old bear scare trick, but it didn't work on me, so I acted in self-defense, and everybody got really angry. I tried to run away, but it didn't work. I ended up just praising God and dying. I decided just to ignore Diamond City for now, and head out to the Old North Church, which holds the railroad. The reason why I'm going with railroad this game was because a man that's completely average fits the entire role for the railroad. So after putting in the railroad code, I walked in, got saved by Deacon, and then he set me off onto another quest. Ricky was talking to me too much, so I decided just to shoot him in his head. Ended up not changing anything, so I just ran back to Deacon, and everything was fine after that. Once inside the old railroad HQ, the synths that were lingering inside were basically of no threat to me. It was so easy to the point that I thought this was going to be such an easy run throughout the rest of the game. But of course, all good things come to an end when Deacon's, because he was a stupid buffoon. He would just stand there, waiting, not wanting to go to the advanced terminal, which I had no way of unlocking due to my 0 skills and level. But no matter how much I shoved, punched, kicked him, even shot him, he would just get up, look at me stupid, and then try to fight me. I pushed him around so much to the point where he was up against the terminal, but he still wouldn't do anything. So I figured that this is just a big scam. And even after all this happened, he stood up there, looking down at me, and I was so angry that I ran to the next best thing, Paladin Danse. After talking to Paladin Danse, I tested out if I could be the next Iron Chef using this ghoul. Made it to Arcjet, where me and Dogmeat had a very great moment when I turned to my left and saw him playing with his teddy bear that I recently gave him. After watching Paladin Danse fight for at least 30 minutes, I decided just to turn on the jets. After fighting some more synths, I grabbed the deep range transmitter and then started to head my way down to Nick Valentine. I ran into Swan before beating him up and grabbing his Power Fist, which became very useful later on. Once I had grabbed the Power Fist, all of the enemies inside of the subway were pretty light. Nothing was too strong for me, and even when I got to the boss that had a scary skull, such as Dino, he was still pretty light. There was nothing hard about it. After grabbing Nick Valentine, we encountered Skinny Malone, and I thought to be nice, so I gave them all lunches. But I guess they were already full, because they all exploded into little pieces afterwards. I became a Discord mod before heading my way back up to Diamond City to explore Kellogg's house. Once inside, I found out some cigarettes and gave it to Dogmeat so we can just keep it. I didn't need him at all. To where I then went to Fort Hagen after a very grueling hike. The synths inside were not much of a threat to me after my past experiences, so I grabbed a key to the armory and went inside and grabbed new weapons to use against Kellogg. The battle was quick. All I had to do was lay down one bottle cap mine and it destroyed me completely, and him, but I had to retry anyway, so I decided just to use my Fat Man, and it ended it pretty quick. After the fight was finished, I grabbed everything off of Kellogg, even his clothes, to where I put it on myself. And with these new clothes, I towered over Nick Valentine, showing him my real might. All detectives deserve this. But after all of this, I walked outside.
Attention movie lovers, if you see my popcorn flying in the air, please don't be startled. Thank you.
Then I made my way to Good Neighbor. I fought Finn at the door, and then gave Nick a little bit of the taste. But then once I got to Fahrenheit, I was too cocky, and I could not win. I relived some past trauma, but couldn't stop laughing at my stupid face. Once I found about Virgil in the glowing sea, I made my way there happily, knowing that I'm going to meet a giant green marshmallow. The walk was as casual as you could think, and I met up with this group of people, which all vanished once I talked to them. I didn't know what happened. I eventually got to Virgil though, and he was annoying as ever, so I kind of just skipped through his dialogue. I had to kill the courser now, but I already knew where the building was, so I went to the CIT ruins and then headed straight into the actual building. I fought my way up the tower, and with minimal deaths, fighting past the gunners, it was pretty simple. Even when they had scary red skulls next to their name, it still was pretty light. Once at the courser, I decided to give him lunch too, because it worked last time. And it ended up working flawlessly. It was great, and I had free lunch all around. Once I had the chip, I had to make it down to the one place I never wanted to go back to, the railroad. And what better way to say my welcomes and do everything else like that than to murder them all in cold blood with my fist. And I fisted them hard. All the puny railroad all fell like flies to my might, and then I decoded my own courser chip. With the chip decoded, I made my way back to the glowing sea to go talk to Virgil. Virgil was once again hard to talk to. I stole some dirty bug meat from Virgil, and then made my way back to the Pridwin, where I talked to Elder Maxon and he'd send me on a quest to Fort Strong. Once at Fort Strong, I killed this behemoth really fast, and then moved on inside to kill all the super mutants. With my new fist, it was pretty light, so I was able to quickly progress to getting my teleporter done. Once I had built the teleporter, I was ready to make my way inside of the Institute, to where I had ran up and met this little weird kid who I interrogated. Talked to this weird old man who wouldn't stop talking, so I ended up just running past him and jumping down to go meet Dr. Lee. Dr. Lee would not believe me due to my one charisma, so I had to complete a side quest for her. I don't know why she needed closure on this, but she did. So once I gave her the data she needed, she made her way back to the Brotherhood of Steel, to where she could build Liberty Prime. I was very joyous until I realized that I actually had to complete side quests to get Liberty Prime built. So I ended up just buying everything from Diamond City vendors and then building the magnets like that. Because I'm not doing all that. I had to give Liberty Prime some nukes, so I gave these door campers a little bit of grenades before they all perished. I was able to place down the distress pulse and make my way out of there. But while I was waiting for the elevator, I realized that Piper was very underdressed, so I made her a godfather. Made my way to Liberty Prime before falling down and crippling myself. I then made my way back to the Pridwin, where I found out that Stance was a dirty synth, so I was tasked to murdering him. And I had to run there, because of course I had nothing near the area where he was. But once I was there, I ran past every single robot, and then murdered him straight up in cold blood, because we don't like you, synth. After killing Dance, I made my way back up to the Pridwin, where I talked to Elder Maxon, and then found out that I had to kill the last member of the railroad, which was Deacon. After all this time, he finally showed up again and did the same exact thing he always does, so I put him down. I made my way to the Mass Fusion building using a vertibird to find the beryllium agitator which I needed to rebuild Liberty Prime with. I grabbed the beryllium agitator from the nuclear core, or whatever this thing is, and then headed back into the room, where I had almost forgotten that there is so many sentry bots, and all just dangerous little robots, such as Assaultrons too, and they all got scary skulls. So, I cut it to the end, but it was all very hard to do. I put the beryllium agitator in the back of Liberty Prime before happily thinking that this was going to be a cakewalk because I can finally see my daddy move. I did see my daddy move, and he was moving more. I was so cocky that I attacked all the people at Bunker Hill before finding out that every single one of them needs a punch to go down, and Piper even needed it because she hated me for some reason. Liberty Prime did a sick move by blowing a hole right into the Institute's crack before I jumped in happily. All the synths guarding the outskirts of the Institute were all pretty light work, especially with the team of all these heavily armored people around me. Take that, Preston Garvey, because you don't help at all. The only thing in the Institute that actually made me flinch were the gorillas. But, if you think about it, if Harambe couldn't live, then so couldn't they. Once inside Father's room, I noticed that he had already had a heart attack before I can get to him. Well, that's one way of going out. Sad I couldn't get to him first. I lifted a lockdown, but did not engage the evacuation protocol because I want every single one of these Institute scientists to feel my wrath. Once inside the reactor room, I made it clear that I was not playing no games. I killed all of the legendary synths with very quick American spirit, and with a minigun, I lasered down the rest of them. Before I managed to make it inside of the actual reactor room, where I planted down the charge. Once I was back in the control room, a little kid was here, so I gave him a false sense of hope and told him I was going to take him, but then took it back right after. I left the Institute before standing on top of the mass fusion building, looking all cool with all my new outfits. These are the fits I gained across the way that were my favorite. And then I ended the challenge with one last press of a button. This was one of my favorite challenges to make, and I hope you guys enjoyed too. If you guys liked it, hit the like button, or if you didn't like it, then, I don't know, scroll past. Thank you.